Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 75 of the Summoning Hour podcast. I am joined by Wesley Peck, the University of San Diego esports lead on their pilot program and pilot exploration of esports. So you're going to have to explain a little bit more about that. But first, I want your origin story about how you got roped into exploring esports in the collegiate
Uh,
space.
and what an origin story it is. Hi, everybody on this podcast. Like Joe said, my name's Wesley. I'm with the University of San Diego. And when Joe says pilot program, I mean, we're talking real fresh pilot program. I think I was brought into into the esports world at USD about a month ago. So this is really the beginning. I listened through some of your other episodes. It sounds like you've had some very mature programs, some representatives of
Absolutely.
very
Yeah.
mature programs on your podcast. You're going to get the other side today because we are
Perfect.
really just beginning from the structural and staffing side. I work for the University of San Diego in the IT department, and I've worked there for about 8 years. I work in the help desk, and I run a team of student workers. Um, and so happens that one of my student workers is on the gaming club. And apparently, their previous staff administrator went on sabbatical, and they needed a new staff advisor in order to fill out the paperwork to get reimbursed for the meals at their events. So the reason that I was initially brought into the Torero Gaming Club was because they needed to get paid back for their food.
Well, I
um,
mean, food is life on college campuses for sure.
Absolutely, and boy, was I happy to contribute my name if it meant that Kevin could get paid back for the food. Um, so I was asked at the beginning of a week, I think it was probably mid-October of this year, if I would be their new staff advisor. I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, maybe. I'm not really involved with a lot of the student life, more the IT side, more the staff side. Definitely not involved with gaming on campus, even though I am a lifelong gamer. I've been playing League of Legends since 2012, and games since Pokemon Red. Um, and so I was batting it around. I wasn't sure if I wanted to bring on the extra responsibility. And then that was I think that was on a Monday in mid-October. That Wednesday, the chief information officer of IT, my boss's boss, showed up in my office or I guess it was on a Friday, and walked into my office and said, "So tell me about this League of Legends thing." It, completely out of left fields. He'd heard that I'd play and was interested in League of Legends. Turns out that there had been some interest, the upper administration at USD in esports, more of an exploratory component, seeing what we already had on campus. So for me, I kind of took that as a sign. If the students are asking me to be involved, and now my boss is asking me about it, maybe this is the universe telling me maybe that I should embrace this part. So that was kind of the origin story for how I got involved in this. But the origin story for Torero Gaming, which is USD's gaming club, goes back a lot further.
Oh.
Um, Torero Gaming
So,
has been around since. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to ask, what is that, and like, why the unique name? Like, usually it's just like so and so university's gaming club or League of Legends club,
Yeah,
but like this sounds like it has identity behind it.
I think part of that is the University of San Diego identity. So our mascot is the Torero, which is
There it is.
kind of like a bullfighter, but the bullfighter that doesn't kill the bull at the end of the bullfight. So a little bit of humanity there. I think I'm particularly proud of being able to call us Torero Gaming because it sounds so much less silly than like Aardvark Gaming or Banana Sled
Right.
Gaming. Not to bash on San Jose or anything, but our mascot doesn't sound like a silly animal. So we can include it in our name. Originally, we weren't called Torero Gaming. Originally, we were called USD Esports Club. That was back in 2011. And again, I wasn't involved with the organization back then. I was on campus as early as 2012, but the organization was completely student started and student led. They've had a lot of growth. They've had some diminution. They've gotten smaller. They've gotten bigger. Times of success and times of disinterest from the campus. At one point, I think we had 3 League of Legends teams on campus, all club. We had an Overwatch team, a Rocket League team from the esports side. Um, and like I said, it's all student run. They have a student council of 4 or 5 student leaders that organize monthly events, and have organized all the competitive side. Really, my role, stepping in as the staff advisor and as the kind of representative for USD's pilot program, is I'm trying to see what infrastructure I can build around the club that already exists, because Torero Gaming has a pretty rich history, and they've been very well run. The last thing I want to do is step in and put my administration hands all over their what is a very successful club. Instead, I want to see what resources we can bring to the club to make them even more successful and make it more of what the students who made that club were dreaming of when they started it.
Yeah, because the students don't know what they don't know, and they haven't always had an insight into the university and how it works and how it runs and everything. And then, like for a lot of people end up running to the athletics department. But when you really want to know what
Mm-hmm.
this is going to cost, it seems pretty foundational to go to IT and be like, well, how do we get these kids to compete at a competitive level? You can't let them be running in with their homemade computers and like just kind of the basic university internet. You have to look at the ports, look at the pipes, how often they have to use this, any other rooms, all that. IT makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think that we're the only organization who's started pursuing esports through IT. What's also really exciting is it's not just IT that's interested. My CIO has been the big advocate so far, but we also have interest through the academic areas too. Because we're a university, so everything at the end of the day comes down to what academic resources are we bringing to the students. And that's a really big growing area at a lot of universities, is like esports programs from the academic side, certificate programs, master's programs, things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
And I think my favorite part about it is, every time you talk with somebody who's in higher education, they're going to get really excited about anything that's cross sectional, right? Because these students don't want to, get a communications degree and then find out that, oh, they were only prepared to do one specific segment of job. I was a literature major in undergrad. And it's like, well, you teach or you go back to school or you find
Yep.
another job. Not to bag on literature majors. I'm so glad that I did it, and I think it was foundational for my education.
My
But if
wife's
you
one.
can take, oh yeah, so
I know.
which probably brings home the big bucks now, right?
Oh yeah.
I joke about it because I'm a IT guy. I'm an IT guy with a literature degree, which in my opinion gives me an edge up. I'm good at communicating. That's part of being literature, and uh, I think that that's pretty cross sectional. Esports is pretty cross sectional too. I mean, off the bat, you've got your regular, I guess, sports components. Good practice regime, being able to lose gracefully and win humbly. Those are really character building traits that are very cross sectional. But in esports, you've got this additional component of it's so accessible when it comes to media production, right? And management. There's traditional sports management, but esports management is a little bit different. And USD is a really strong business school with management programs. I'm a little biased because I got my MBA from USD, so I think they're amazing. Our continuing education department is really strong too, so we've got all these certificate programs, and we've got a strong College of Arts and Sciences for like media production. IT has a pretty strong media production area as well. All of those cross and can be used in esports as opportunities for the students at USD, even if they're not the ones, getting pentakills during competition, to find a job when they leave USD in something that they're passionate about.
I have to agree completely, and it allows you to lean into your university's strengths and just what the programs you're known for. But it's not even it's even opening up the doors for other majors that may not have had much of the limelight from the university reputation, but it brings them into the fold
Hmm.
into something new. And I mean, anything that strengthens community on campus, anything that strengthens programs that are already existing, like it's a win-win for the university.
I agree. I agree. And relatively reasonable startup costs too. From just a fiscal perspective, your investment in, the hardware for gaming is relatively small compared to investments in other types of clubs and programs, and uh, no travel, right? Or very little travel.
As
That
much as
that's
you want,
just
really. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, as much as you're willing to do. You could do just about no travel, and, I mean, we're in Southern California, so even if we're playing with Riot or Blizzard, they're right around the corner. Um, so even that's just a bus ride away. That's kind of a game changer in lowering the barrier for entry for just about any organization. The real barrier to entry, in my opinion, is, do your students care about it? Um,
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
without
and
them, there's none of this program.
not at all, not at all. I was lucky enough to get to do a site visit recently with University of Irvine, UC Irvine, and UCI has an incredible program. Mark and Eric over there have been just absolutely rock stars in helping us learn, as we're moving forward with our pilot to see what fits University of San Diego's identity best. Um, and even they shared with me as well that the esports program that they've built at UCI, this really, really well-known, renowned esports program, with an arena and competitive teams and just like an incredible business model, was built around the gaming clubs that already existed. And that was their priority, was like, we need to build something around the people that are here, the people that care about this. And I'm really lucky. The Torero Gaming Club on campus already boasts 100 members. We have a five-person team that's going to be competing this weekend in the West Coast Conference's very first League of Legends competition.
Sweet.
So, yeah, Sunday, if you're watching, tune into ESL's Twitch channel. When we make the top four, hear my confidence there. You can see us compete for semifinals and finals for WCC's first preseason. And it's very interesting seeing the West Coast Conference, which is our conference for sports at USD, step in and organize our first esports conference competition as well. Because it's, again, this crossing over of the esports, regular sports, in areas that may not have normally commingled. That's really exciting to see.
Now, one part that I'm always curious about is, and you might not have had much exposure to this yet, but from your students' perspective, what's been the parents' acceptance been like?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't spoken with any of my students about that. Because just reading through some of the documentation that UCI was willing to share with us, based on the surveys they did with the students and the general community, there's always some reluctance to, recognize video games as a serious career or a serious enough hobby to invest time in.
Totally.
Um, yeah, I mean, you and I get it too. My parents didn't let me play video games for the longest time. Doesn't mean I wasn't sneaking my Game Boy under the blanket in my bedroom, but uh, you know, I think it's still breaking its way into the mainstream of uh, valid recognition. Um, from the administrator and staff side, that's something that's really impressed me with USD, is the willingness of the upper administration to not blink twice when somebody says, let's pay money to help kids play video games. They have said, okay, let's look at it. And uh, I'll tell you a short story. I had a meeting with our CIO where we were touching base about prepping for this upcoming competition. And our meeting ended, and I asked him, "Is there anything else you'd like me to do?" And he said, "Yeah, can you teach me to play League of Legends?" Um,
Brilliant.
right? And as far as I know, Elazar isn't a gamer, but he had already installed the game on his computer. He pulled it up, and taught him to last hit on Tristana for the last 15 minutes of that meeting. That kind of willingness to get in there and experience it for yourself, in a way that isn't, I guess, condescending or old school. I really respect that, and it makes me really excited for what the administration could do with something like esports, because they aren't going to be blinded by kind of the old way of things. They're excited for the next generation of opportunity.
And not only that, but it gives them that immediate understanding of this isn't as easy as it looks. This isn't just
Yep.
playing Pac-Man. This isn't just playing like original Tomb Raider kind of thing where everything's very
Hmm.
limited. You're playing against five other very smart people, assumedly, and you're trying to work with four other people and you're trying to make sense of it. Like that's a big deal.
Hmm.
And but there's still that very individual component specifically to League of Legends.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
all esports, like whatever your role is, you have to execute. And saying it is something completely different than actually doing it. And League of Legends, that's a whole different game.
Yeah, I warned the CIO when he sat down to play that I played League of Legends for 6 months before I had any fun, and
That is
and
absolutely right.
I don't know if he had fun. I can't speak on his behalf, but he did get some CS. I was really impressed. He was clicking away with the best of us, and better than some of my solo queue partners. So.
So, I mean, you have this buy-in, you have this permission,
Hmm.
you have the key to the city about how to get this
Hmm.
thing rolling. What's what's your immediate goal? Like, we're what, a few months into the semester, we're wrapping up here. What's your next step to go? Like, you're getting your feet underneath you, you're going to competition. What's the rest of the infrastructure look like that you're trying to get set up?
Yeah, absolutely. For right now, we're focusing on the short term. We want to see how this first preseason turns out with WCC, with ESL. And basically, I want to get the team up on Twitch. I want them to feel kind of the figurative spotlights on them and watch them perform and how it impacts them. Because if they've got the drive, then I will do everything I can to make the space for them to drive as far as they can. And and that's probably our biggest challenge right now, is that I have a regular job that I'm doing most of the time. So I run a help desk with 30 student workers and 4 staff members, and uh, that's more than a full time job. So the everything esports related kind of comes in after hours. So there's only so many hours in the day that I can commit to it. That's one of the reasons I'm so lucky that the students gaming club has been so self-sustaining and has built themselves up. Is that really I can kind of step in, observe, and offer them resources as they need.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one benefit of all this. Like, regardless of any club I've talked to, the students go so far beyond than what I've ever heard of before of any like high school sport or like anyone who's just trying to turn something into a business or a profession. Like, these students go absolutely nuts. And like, whatever they're doing for your university, they're also doing for like three other startups too.
It's true. It's true. And people are passionate about video games, man. People love their video games.
I'm thankful it keeps me having a job, so that's all good.
Yeah. I think once we make it through this preseason, that's going to be, I think, kind of our litmus test to see how much drive and buy-in there is between the students and the staff. If we're looking pretty, which I really think we will be, I think we're going to find a lot of success during this preseason. I think my next big step is campus recruitment and campus PR, getting the word out. USD, I don't think, is really known as a gamer school. We're right on the beach. I mean, like a 15-minute, if that, drive from the beach. People generally don't want to stay inside when you're that close to the beach. And we've got UCSD and SDSU right around the corners who have big gaming communities. So I really want to touch base with our community and learn who's out there, who plays Rocket League, who plays Overwatch. Do you want to practice twice a week and compete? because if you do, I will give you the structure and give you the infrastructure, and I'll fight for the money if there is money, and I will spend my time in order to help build that opportunity. And the next thing I want to do is look at how we're going to organize and manage the casual versus competitive gaming. The last thing I want to do is to watch Torero Gaming go from being this awesome, fun club for all gamers on campus to being this very selective group of extremely competitive gamers. Um, I don't think that that's what anybody at USD wants. We need to maintain the community and the casual, fun gaming for gaming's sake while still funneling some resources into esports. That balance is, I think, is going to be tricky. But I think I've got the students behind me on that.
And it's great to hear you considering the community that's there, where you want to go, and how to balance it. Because you, and like you already said, you don't want to just come in and put your administrative hands all over it. Like these students have built something
Hmm.
and they're still building something, and finding ways to encourage that is like something I've heard regularly from many of the other clubs that I've interviewed with. And it's like you walk that balance of building a community, but sustaining what each of those segments within that community really want. The highly
Hmm.
competitive, the casuals, the one who want to learn a brand new fighting game every other week kind of thing. And
Yes.
you get that, you keep that going and you keep that honest and you make sure that one's not kind of polarizing the other. And it's a struggle, but at the same time, it's also down to what the students want. And between
Hmm.
the university putting you into a position to help kind of be that arbiter and be a little bit of the okay, what's next, you can play that neutral party really well to build the campaign that the students really want.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I don't think that you can have esports without casual gaming. At least not right now. Um, that's probably my favorite thing about competitive video games is the fact that they are so, I guess, direct democracy of video games. Like if one of my players on the League of Legends team grinds it out for a year, he could make challenger and be scouted by the North American teams, right? You don't have to go to the right school, you don't have to get the right coaching, you don't have to have lots of money, you don't have to do any of the things that you might have to do in a traditional sports arena or sports circumstance. Instead, you can really grind it out yourself. And I think that that is such an important element of esports, and that comes from having a casual, not a casual, but having I guess, a non-structured personal love of the game. And that's what I want the casual gaming side of Treyarch Gaming to always represent. People that love to play, and then if you love to play so much that you want to beat the snot out of other people, you come join my team.
Yeah, and if you want to beat the snot out of UC San Diego or UCI, then all the more power to you. Like
We're
if you
coming
want
for
to,
you, UCI. Maybe not this year, but we're coming for you.
I think that's a great place to be. If you want, if your students have that drive to be like calling someone out by name and just being like, for this reason, for your competitive record, because you have all of this infrastructure and money and everything and this lavish program built around you, we want to be that scrappy up and comer underdog that just takes it out from right underneath you. That's a story
Hmm.
for the next 5 years I'll end up covering, and it'll be fantastic.
Oh heck yeah! I want to give you some content.
So I mean, you're testing things out, you're figuring out, you're finding that
Hmm.
right balance. Where do you want to be by the end of the year? What's like that flag in the ground? We're going to keep doing this next year, kind of thing.
I think the thing that I want to see most by maybe the end of I think at end of the calendar year or end of the academic year here, I think
Academic
it's
year, sorry.
semesters. Yeah, my entire life is dominated by semesters. Um, so I think by the end of the academic year, what I want to see is um, I want to see us make it to Riot's competition for League of Legends. I want to see us having scouted our entire campus. I've got some ideas for some grassroots kind of urban marketing to try and get the attention of the league players on campus, see how many people perk their ears up when they hear the pings from the game, just around campus, see if they follow them. I want to have the infrastructure in place for an Overwatch team and for a Rocket League team. And hopefully for Smash singles, I think that would be really good. At least the space. I want the roster space to be there so that if there are the players that want to play, they can step into that space. I'd like to start doing some more investigation into coaching staff to see what that would look like. UCI recommended doing remote coaching staff, which thank God they are sharing all their wisdom with me because I would have never even thought about that. So I've got pretty lofty goals. The hard part about this really is a pilot program. Upper administration has to take a pretty logical and reasonable look at it and say, okay, is this good for our organization? Does this align with what USD stands for and what USD wants? And if it doesn't, then don't do it.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm lucky to be in the position that I am. Is I'm being asked for my regular job to look into whether or not this program is a good fit for us. And if it isn't, I'm being asked in my free time as the staff advisor to still be involved with the gaming club. So I get to be involved either way, whichever way administration wants to go. I just got to dream differently, depending on which way we want to go.
I dig. This is everything that I want. Like, this is like, it feels like me starting my podcast, and it's just like, well, where do you want to go? What do you want to do with this? How is this going to work? And it's just like, here you go. We want this. And people have been listening. So it's like, people are going to want to play games at University of San Diego. Like, that's, it's a given. People are already doing it. You have 100 or so students doing this. It's almost too easy at this point. It's just, how far do the students want to take it?
Yeah. I get to dream big. Varsity teams and scholarships and being nationally renowned. But right now the focus is, okay, who's picking up lunch on Saturday for the team between games? The logistics mixed with the dream big, right?
All the good parts, like solving these little problems, they just give you momentum for going down the road. So that's exciting. Outside of the games that you mentioned, Rocket League, League of Legends, and Overwatch, I know that there's tons of other games going on. So like maybe you don't have an official University of San Diego team for Rocket League, but do you have students participating in like the CSL League or anything like that for other games outside of those three?
From the competitive scene that already exists at USD, right now we only have League of Legends and Overwatch. We've had Rocket League and we've had some Smash presence in the past, but those have kind of dwindled out over the last couple years. The competitive scene has always been primarily League of Legends at USD. That being said, if you show up at one of the GBM meetings on a Friday, then you're going to find dozens of video games. This month's GBM is going to be all board games, right? That's I think a characteristic that's pretty common to gamers is that it's hard to keep our attention. We jump from game to game to game. So as new games hit the market, I think that's actually going to be an interesting challenge for all esports programs. Is as these new games hit the market, are you going to take the gamble and be like, you know what, Heroes of the Storm is the next biggest competitive thing, only to find out that Blizzard's pulling Heroes of the Storm Collegiate, right?
Yep.
What are you willing to take a risk on? What do you think is going to go big? It's like financial investing mixed in with sports management, mixed in with regular management.
Yeah, and I mean, that is a perfect business case to be like, this could cost us money that we see nothing from, because no one's paying attention to that game anymore, or very few people are, and there's no competitive scene for it. There's nothing to build off of for those student futures outside of the skills in the background, not necessarily that game. But then you have things like Apex Legends came out, no advertising, no marketing, no plan whatsoever, just came out weekend of the Super Bowl last year. I think it was that weekend. But came up out of nowhere. Suddenly it's a competitor in all of the battle royale space. Apex
Yeah,
Legends,
yeah.
Fortnite, PUBG, PUBG Mobile now, like that whole genre just came out of nowhere. And
Tell
now
me about
it's
it. I mean, it was crazy.
I mean, it's super exciting for sure. And like now you have things like the auto battlers coming out and TFT going to do its own thing and Dota Underlords and all that. But
Yeah,
like, what's that when is that next genre going to come out? Who's going to come out with
yeah.
auto battlers 2.0 and really just push that genre crazy? And like, how do you react to that? Like, Apex Legends, it's massive, it's monster. You start seeing all these professional orgs hiring streamers specifically for that game or buying competitive teams, even though there's no
Hmm.
like league formation, there's no competition set up yet. And as
Yeah.
a university, when it's all like brand new and it's rapid fire like that, I could imagine that scaring people away from investing early on. So to have your level of acceptance and your administrator's level of acceptance, that's not an easy pill to swallow.
No, it's not. It kind of reminds me of like Silicon Valley investment, small tech companies, next big tech company going to take over the world type of thing. You invest in these games, throw a lot of money at them, see what happens. Doesn't work, move on to the next one. Higher education isn't exactly known for being fast-paced, an industry of fast-paced innovators. I heard somebody joke that the only uh, industry that's slower than higher education is the government. We're not always known for
Ouch.
adopting things quickly and immediately, and I think there's good reason for that. You know, innovation in something like the next competitive video game can be really expensive without any guaranteed payoff, and we have a responsibility to the students to be providing them an education that means something and being good stewards of their tuition money and of the donors' money and the grants that we're receiving. Um, that being said, I think that there is a strategic way to go about it. And since that industry is growing, now that it's finally growing in higher education, now we're getting research data about it, right? UCI has a huge section of their esports program that's dedicated to research on video games and esports. So we're going to start seeing like, okay, what are the indicators that that a game is going to be competitive? We may not be able to predict the next Apex Legends, but we might be able to be prepared if Here's the Storm is on its way out. You know, we might see those indicators, read the chicken bones or whatever the phrase is.
That game still tugs at the heartstrings. I was super into it, and then it's just there goes the carpet out from underneath us.
Yeah, yeah. It's always tough to see and feel something like that. And I mean, to be honest, you know, I've been playing League of Legends since 2012, and I can't believe the game's still going. That's crazy. Uh, and you know, every other week on Reddit, they're saying League of Legends is dead. League of Legends is dead. Like, I really don't think it is, guys.
If there is one game that's not dead, it's League of Legends. You can
Yeah.
just time out those Reddit users and be like, go away. You're done for a few weeks. Come back when you have some perspective.
Come back in 3 weeks to find that League of Legends isn't dead.
Exactly. Man. Okay, so I mean, what else should people know about your campaign to build out esports there? Like it's hard for me to know because like you have the infrastructure coming up, you're getting the investigations done, you're finding partners to find out how they're doing it. Like what else is going on? What's your move to keep moving forward outside of just what the students tell you what they need to do and finding out about other programs?
Yeah. So one of the things that's going to be a big priority for USD's esports teams is video game, like gamer diversity. Um, so something that I notice painfully every time I've watched the competitive League of Legends scene is every single player is a dude. And there's nothing wrong with guys playing video games, but I would love to see uh, League of Legends teams and gamer teams that accurately reflect what the video game community is. The video game community is not a bunch of guys in their basements like people like to joke. It is split basically evenly, if not slightly tilted towards more female gamers. So that's going to be a huge priority of mine. I think that there's there's these remnants of some toxic gamer culture that really drive away people that aren't your standard basement dweller guy. And I want to see how much we can combat that and try and create the new environment of gamers in the spotlight that accurately represent the gamers that are actually playing every day. That's going to be a huge priority for USD overall over this next year as we start working towards our PR campaign on campus. USD is predominantly female, I believe. I think we're at a 65 or 70% female identifying enrolled at the university, which means that our base population that we're drawing from is already pushing towards the diversity that I want to see in our roster, and in overall all of esports. And we may end up having the benefit of, if USD becomes a signature school for esports, we might be able to balance out our ratios a little bit better, drawing the guys that want to play video games to USD.
I commend you on making diversity such a strong pillar up front. Like it's necessary. It's just it has to
Mhm.
be done, and it has to be set in stone that this is a priority somewhere. And I've heard a handful of other universities saying diversity is important to them, and not just like where it's at on their campus, but also just who's playing in the club, who's playing for the competitive teams, and having more and more of those conversations. And those are programs that are already a few years in, but to hear that at during the pilot phase, I think that that's really important and really impressive that you have that goal as well as your university as well.
If USD is going to build, if Torero Gaming is going to build into a large esports program, I want to make sure that we have a foundation that we're proud of. Um, and that's a core value of the entire university, and it should be a core value of Torero Gaming as well. And it is a core value of Torero Gaming. That's what we're moving forward.
And we're not just talking diversity of board games and first person shooters.
Well, hey, we want diversity of that too.
Fair enough. I'll take it too.
Can we combine them all? I want to see an RTS, MOBA, RPG with text-based elements, and you have to flip it, roll an actual die.
I could, yeah, let's do it. We'll build that, and we'll get a game design degree started there. We'll get everyone just looped in there. Next thing you know, the next League of Legends is birthed, and a University of San Diego gaming club experiment.
I'm in. It's got to find the right donors, right?
Absolutely. So now I believe I found the original USD esports website, which I can't actually access because it says, did you mean this? And it takes me to usedsports.com or dot something. So I'm wondering, like, and you've mentioned media production a few times and getting your students up on Twitch and everything. How do you feel like your students being exposed to and being in control of something like social media that is representative of the university is going to go over with the administration?
That's a good question. So as long as we're at the club level, I think that the administration isn't going to think too much about it, because the Torero Gaming Club has been in charge of their own social media and internet presence since 2011, and has done a fine job. I don't think that that's going to be too much of a problem. As the program grows and there's more of a spotlight, there's always the questions of, what is professional, what is not professional. In my day job, like I said, I work with about 30 student workers, and I can tell you that when given the right resources, students are incredibly capable of being so incredibly professional, enough so that I know adults that don't come anywhere close, who are in their 40s and 50s with full-time jobs, that don't come anywhere close to as professional as I've seen my student workers. They inspire me with the confidence to know that the student team is more than capable of running their own presence and accurately representing the values of the university, if they're given the right guidance and the right tools.
I have to admit that's a little bit of a leading question because that's the right answer every time I've asked that question. It's just like the students know better about social media. The students know better how to
Oh God,
represent
yeah.
themselves and how to represent something that's important to them. So just trusting the students with something like that and trusting them to behave. I think that's easy
Hmm.
enough to do for something that they're willing to put in like 16-hour days for this kind of thing. And it's the trust that you're already giving them, the trust that the university is giving. Like, this is how you build a program. This is how you push those boundaries faster and faster each time because you have given them the leeway and the length of the leash to just go out and explore.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, the drive that some of the students show is far beyond anything that I think that I could conjure myself. As much as I love video games, as much as I love esports, um, the uh, the uh, the person in charge of public communication and marketing for Torero Gaming, her name is Sophie, and she has so much bottled passion deep inside of her that if she just uses 1% of that on Torero Gaming, I guarantee you the entire world will know about the organization.
And it's that kind of thing, those kind of personalities that I'm just waiting for someone to do a startup, like an actual media production startup on campus through an incubator program that's there on campus. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it just becomes a huge production house of content for esports and game coverage, and just it becomes a brand new like 24/7 channel on Twitch. It's like the CNN of Twitch, and it's someone's going to do it, and it's all going to be student
Absolutely.
driven, and it's going to be insane when it happens.
And it's going to be able to react a lot faster than us old folk learning about things and trying to put them through our bureaucracies and our structures. They're going to adapt way faster than we'll be able to.
And I can tell you now that there are some programs that are entirely student driven. They have like points of contact with administration and faculty, but they don't have a dedicated faculty member to help them. And yet they run it more tightly than I've seen some actual organizations. Like, they have a management structure, and they have
Yeah.
expectations and actual KPIs for their co-managers and everything. I've seen numbers of studios and companies try and roll out KPIs and just have it flounder miserably. So
Yeah.
to have students holding themselves accountable to that level, you can keep your GPA requirements and take it away, like, because
Hmm.
it's not necessary. They have their own sense of success and how they want to measure that and how to hold each other accountable. It's really truly impressive.
When they own it, they can make incredible things happen. And I think that's across the board. But I think when the administration owns it too, when they invest and they personally value it, that's when you find administrations that do well. Um, I love esports, and we have the buy-in of our administration so far. I hope that there's more community engagement and more administration and staff engagement as our program grows. Because Lord knows I can't do it by myself. But I'll try and set the groundwork, and then we can just start flourishing.
Well, if you want to give any shout outs for the school, any faculty, other student leaders, or students involved and stuff, now's the perfect time to do it. If there's any other events coming up, or if you have details on that League of Legends match coming up that you can share, I'm happy to do that. Happy to boost the signal. And as everything else goes along with your master plan for the rest of the academic year, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. I can leave a message on the podcast and put it out there to make sure people are paying attention to you, and just see however else might be inventive ways to utilize me as a resource. I am happy to help in any way I can.
I'll tell you what, Joe, I'll connect with you in a year and we'll take a look at the program, and it may be growing gloriously and it may have fallen completely flat, but I guarantee you, no matter what the state of our of Terror Gaming and the esports program, I will have learned something that I can.
Perfect.
And as far as shout outs go, the biggest shout out I want to give out is to the Terror Gaming Council. They've been incredible in embracing me as this brand new staff member who's just kind of come screaming through with all this new bureaucracy that they've never had to deal with before. They've been super collaborative and super helpful. And to the League of Legends team competing this weekend, I don't know if this episode will air before this weekend, but this Sunday is the West Coast Conference's ESL top 4. We plan to be in that top 4, so you guys can tune in on ESL's Twitch channel, watch us kick some ass, and watch the other teams in the West Coast Conference in their very first pilot League of Legends preseason.
Perfect. Well, I'll clip that section and we'll share it out on social media so that at least that part goes out before this weekend. So it will go out
Awesome.
And people will hear about it. So my network is your network.
I appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely. Any final words, any last statements of esports at University of San Diego that you would like to share?
I guess the last thing would be that I'm incredibly appreciative of the administration at USD. They've really shown a lot of desire to innovate. And again, whether or not this program becomes something huge or this is our first and last try at it, I really appreciate them taking a risk. It makes me proud to work for the organization. And I'm excited to see where it goes. And I really appreciate you doing a podcast talking specifically about this thing, because the collegiate world is one that it's quiet. It's a slow burn, I think. As the world gets used to the concept of esports, the college scene's going to come up big, I think. And I appreciate you doing what you do to try and increase the awareness early on here.
Well, thank you. And I know it's a last minute plan that you and I had to get together tonight and have this conversation. So by all means, thanks for putting off your evening plans and helping me have this conversation. I really do appreciate it. And as you said, like just cataloging this, chronicling this, and making sure people see where we all started with this and doing my part. I like being on the outside and helping out how I can. So thank you for jumping in, even if you were just kind of like sucked right in right out of your office.
I appreciate the surprise. I don't want to live in
a All right. Well, you have a nice night, and I will talk to you before a year, but at least next year.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right, everyone. That's the podcast. That's the show. That's all I've got for tonight. I'll clip that, get it out to social media, make sure everyone knows about that League of Legends match going on, and then I'll have a new podcast for you on Monday. Sweet. Anyways, I will see you all later, and I will talk to you actually tomorrow with the Check Your Six podcast. So take it easy, everyone, and I will see you later.